speaking of that little retreat where we see the Empire discussing the attack on Gorman, I love the symbolism parallels to World War II in this season. And that session in the mountains is a clear parallel to, what is it called? The Wannsee Convention, the Nazi convention where the Nazis got together to plan the final solution literally over a business lunch.
I never seen the movie, but I heard about. I think there's some. I heard people mention a movie that's about that. I guess the whole movie it covers the lunch or the little business meeting. I haven't seen it, but yeah, I heard people talking about that, and I thought that was kind of on the nose, kind of. But yeah.
Well, one thing that I think the show does incredibly well is sort of the whole banality of evil thing, where the Empire, it's not like a bunch of Saturday morning cartoon villains. It's just a bunch of people doing their jobs.
Absolutely.
And how it sort of humanizes them. I mean, we'll get more into that later. But yeah, like it's just like you like I saw a picture of it. It's like, here's like a company office picture. Oh, who are these people? Oh, they are the administrative staff at Auschwitz, and it just looks like a bunch of people. Like, there's the secretaries, there's the managers, and it's nothing there looks like this. These people are overseeing one of the greatest acts of mass murder in history. It's just, yeah.
Very much. There was a film that was nominated for Best Picture, I think about 2 years ago, called The Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
That we talked about on our Oscars podcast. And it discussed the family that lived next door to Auschwitz. The commander, he and his family lived in a very nice little house that was literally right next to the death camp. And it was just bizarre. It's this beautiful house, beautiful little garden, and it's like, oh, and over the wall is the screaming death of the Jewish people. Yay!
Yeah. I mean, since we're talking about Chandrila and Gorman right now, I do have to give absolute massive credit to the production design on this show.
Oh, definitely.
Like I remember hearing a story that George Lucas, he came up to the original costume designer for the original Star Wars and talking about the Imperial uniforms, and he said, like, I'm going to give you an incredibly difficult job. I want you to make Nazi uniforms, but not. And then just sort of like, it has to evoke, fascism, totalitarianism, a la Nazi, but not be too obvious. And that is a really hard thing to get. And I think that the production design in the show, not so much of the uniforms, I mean, that's already, been done by original Star Wars, but like the Chandrila, like obviously it's very Asian influenced.
Oh, very.
The architecture and costumes, but it's not so like it feels like its own thing. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're all just wearing kimonos here, and the same thing with Gorman, where obviously the parallels to like occupied France are there, but it doesn't feel like occupied France. Like they do a really, really great job of just riding that line, and it's so hard to get right.
Very, because when I watch Gorman, I was very much so reminded, especially because the language of the Gormans feels like an interesting blend of French, Italian, and German. You kind of pick up all three of those.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, it's like it's a planet of weavers. If they're artisans, it's like, yeah, that's freaking Paris. Paris was never the city of fighters. Yeah, it was the House of Fashion. It's where they mention when Cassian's going undercover. It's like, you are an apprentice designer. You're going to Gorman as a rite of passage. A lot of professional artists, costume designer, clothing designers, chefs, going and studying in Paris is a rite of passage. It's just like you're going to go there and train for a few months. That's what they do. And you're right I love your input about the Nazi uniforms versus the Stormtrooper uniforms, David. And then, of course, Zack Snyder said, I can make those even more Nazi-ish. I'm sorry. I had to bring that up because when we cut to the scene of the rebels hiding out on the farm planet and I saw all the gray and I got, oh God, I'm having Rebel Moon flashbacks.
Yeah, except for all the color.
Yes.
What's wrong with the sky? It's blue. It's not another shade of brown.
Again, we get a lot of development with these characters. Bix, who has gone through so much in the first season, is dealing with horrible PTSD. She's having night terrors. You have a scene where she is literally walking in her sleep and she's got her blaster out and it's Cassidy's come up behind her. It's like, it's okay. You're dreaming. Put the gun down. I mean, how would you react if you woke up in the middle of the night and your wife was just standing in the middle of another room holding a weapon out at an imaginary person? What would you think about something like that?
Yeah. In all honesty, first thought, oh, good, it's not me. Yeah, then it would be like general concern for her well-being. Yes.
Good way to put it. Not to mention the whole scene with them on the farming plant also hits close to home because they talk a lot about the undocumented workers, illegal workers. And those of us in America, this is something that's really hitting home. We have our government coming after undocumented workers. We have a lot of them who are here on temporary work permits. They're just trying to, make a little money, and our government is using them right now as a scapegoat, and they're coming after them. And it's becoming very, very hard for farms to stock their staff, because a lot of them they're looking for these temporary workers, and the temporary workers are saying, we're not going to stay here that long. We don't want to get caught.
Yeah, I have family in the Central Valley here in California, and it's like for those who don't know, the Central Valley, California is kind of like the breadbasket for most of the country. It's where a lot of vegetation, a lot of the fruits and vegetables, tomatoes, almonds, stuff like that's grown here. And I have people in my extended family who, when they started hearing about those, I don't know if you guys have seen that ad about turning yourself in if you're undocumented. I don't know if.
Oh my God!
This is what I'm talking about. But like,
yeah, the one asking. I've seen it followed by the picture of Admiral Akbar. Okay, let's just put it that way.
And so these family members have they avoided going to work for like a couple weeks, and like we heard the stories about like production stalling and not being able to grow or not pick up certain crops because people were scared to go to work. And so it's the stuff with Amino Rao with them going around and warning like, oh, like the Imperials they checked this camp or they checked this section today, and like that kind of hit home. I mean, not for me personally, but like that I feel like I've heard this before in real life, like in a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think they keep it general enough that it's not any particular thing. Like, it could also be, like them rounding up, looking for Jewish families in Germany, or it wasn't specifically like it is current day issue. I mean, it could apply to current day issues, and I think that's the brilliance of making something that's timeless.
Definitely. Did we want to talk any more about the wedding, or shall we move past that? Because I know a lot of people are saying, so when the heck is the wedding music going to be on Spotify?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of mixes on YouTube. I mean, it is a good song.
Oh yeah,
and just a fantastic scene at like the end of that episode. I love that shot of like when Luthen's walking after he's decided that he's going to have to kill the guy. Mm-hmm. And just the look on his face and the way that the camera is just like right next to his face, and he's just walking around the outside of the party, and everyone's just cutting loose on the dance floor. It's like watching a shark going through a goldfish bowl. It's amazing. And the way that they've got Mon Mothma just trying to just drink and party away the fact that she just condoned getting her best friend executed and failing at dealing with it, not failing at the execution. But it's just that was one of the high points of the show for me, I think, just in terms of like great storytelling.
I love the line she exchanged with Luthen right before that, where he's asking like what's going on, and she brings him up to speed about what's going. Like he's like following them as they walk on the opposite sides of the dining area, and she brings him up to speed about how he's like asking, he's in the financial dire straits. And he basically implies like, we're gonna have to like do something about it. And she's like, what do you mean? And then he says something along the lines of like, oh, she says, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh, that must be good, nice for you. Like, basically saying like, I'm gonna have to dirty my hands, and you just continue with your public persona of just being like the diplomat and stuff. So I really like that exchange. And as soon as we see Cinta show up and she goes in the car with him and like, oh, you're not my usual driver. He's like, oh yeah, I called in or something. And I'm like, oh no, like bye Tacoma. We'll see you.
Sorry, Jay.
yeah. And they don't show you what it's actually like the the deed itself. You just
Right.
know that
Mhm.
that that happens, and then 1 year later, it's like, oh, okay, like that's it. Yeah, but yeah, it certainly goes into the whole. Like the original Star Wars, of course, is a very simple morality tale. Like, the bad guys are
Right.
all bad, the good guys are all good. And this sort of shows more like, yeah, historically, that's not really how these things work. I mean, yes, like you can certainly say one side is the bad side, but even on the good guy side, you have to do some pretty horrible things, and it eats away at you to to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Luthen talks I'll say Luthen talks a lot about that. He talks about how he's burned. I burned my soul for a sunrise that I'll never see.
yeah,
He knows
that's the
he's not
Oscar
gonna,
line.
He knows he's not going to get out of this alive. He knows he is not going to see the
He's
end of the rebellion.
condemned to use the weapons of his enemies, which political assassination, that's definitely one of the Empire's weapons.
Yeah, it's those are good questions. Like, how far do you go down that path? At what point do you become the very thing you're seeking to fight against? And like, those are questions that we're still wrestling with to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I also love it's also a parallel also to when Mon Mothma starts dancing. It's a parallel to what we see with the rich, the upper class. We have seen throughout season 1 and now into season 2 the way the Empire keeps the rich and the upper class docile. They keep throwing these luxury parties. They keep having fun. They just throw all this comfort at the rich and the upper class. There's a scene where they're talking about, I can't even remember what they were celebrating, but it's some kind of big party week for the Empire. And they're talking about, okay, I want to know which parties you're going to and what you're going to see. And it's almost sounds like they're talking about
investiture week. I think that's what it's called.
Something like that.
Yeah.
No idea what the hell that even means.
It's like for the incoming class of senators. Yeah. Like it was like 100 parties or 100 senators or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the way they're talking about it, you'd swear it's like, okay, either Fashion Week or the governor's ball after the Oscars or something.
There's a great scene about that too, where if you remember with the rebels on Yavin that Andor runs into, the ones that take him hostage, where they're like chopping up I don't know if it's like a coconut or some kind of like vegetable, and they say like it smells bad, and like they start tasting it, and then it immediately cuts to the scene where the Imperials are after the meeting. They're like they have this like charcuterie board set up or whatever, and they're kind of big chunky like admirals in general are kind of just like picking up the food, and it's like right after seeing those guys like I'm not even sure we can eat this thing. There's just like that great contrast. Back to what you were talking about, Alexis.
Yeah, I was so expecting them to get dysentery.
Maybe.
Yeah, because they've got the melons. The other side's got those little food packets. Pretty similar, I think, to what we see Rey cooking with in The Force Awakens. And they say flat out, it's like, that looks like mold. Pretty sure those have gone bad. And there's things like, is it worth trying out to see if it is mold? Are we that hungry? Although I'm not going to lie, the Maya Pay Brigade, I know the idea is that they're uncoordinated, they're unfocused, they haven't had like proper food in days, and their main leader is gone. But I was so glad when they started getting eaten by those beasts. It's just like, wow, you guys are just, you're doomed. You're doomed to fail, Yeah,
it's nice to show that not everyone is competent.
But that also does parallel to what Luthen and Organa and Mothma are trying to do. They're trying to connect these cells. We see what happens with these cells if they are not linked to the bigger rebellion, and that's the Maya Pay Brigade. And they just flounder because they don't know what to do. They're ready to fight, but they have no idea of how they're supposed to go about it. They're stuck on this planet, and my dog won't shut up. I'm sorry about that.
There's like no real like chain of command or discipline or anything. They're kind of just winging it.